But I recognise it's been a really important, busy year, and this space obviously sort of has multi dimensions to it. There's a lot of different work that goes on. I'm also aware that some or quite a bit of what goes on here can't necessarily be talked about all the time. It isn't, although we're really proud of what you're doing, we can't necessarily tell the world what you're doing here. And therefore, it makes it really important to say thank you, to acknowledge that. Because although we're not saying it to the whole world for reasons that are obvious to you, the whole world is relying on you. And everybody back at home is relying on you and know that you will be there. So a big thanks from me.
نباید تردید کرد که اونچه در سوریه اتفاق افتاد محصول یک نقشه مشترک آمریکایی و صهیونیستی است. بله، یک دولت همسایه سوریه نقش آشکاری رو در این زمینه ایفا کرده، الانم ایفا میکنه، اینو میبینن همه. ولی عامل اصلی اونها، عامل اصلی، توطئه‌گر اصلی، نقشه‌کش اصلی، اتاق فرمان اصلی در آمریکا و رژیم صهیونیستی است. قرائنی داریم. این قرائن برای انسان جای تردید باقی نمیذاره.
الإسرائيليين لا يقاتلون ضد فلسطين فقط، يقاتلون ضد الأمة العربية. هذا قتال وجود وليس قتال حدود. وهم ينتظرون اليوم الذي يحل فيه المشكل الفلسطيني لكي يتفرغوا للهجوم على بقية الشعوب العربية. الخندق الفلسطيني يقاوم نيابة عنكم. يجب دعمه وحشد كل الإمكانيات وراء الخندق الفلسطيني. إذا سقط هذا الخط ستتقدم القوات الإسرائيلية إلى البلاد العربية من حيث الخليج. يريدون إقامة إمبراطورية إسرائيلية فوق الأرض العربية. ما تسمع حكاية كده مسيرة السلام. خداع. تنزيل على الجماهير. أي مسيرة سلام؟ مسيرة دمار ومذابح في لبنان، في سوريا، في فلسطين، في تونس، في ليبيا. الآن يدفن الفلسطينيون الأحياء هم أحياء في فلسطين اليوم. هذه فرض الانحطاط وضعف العزيمة العربية. هذا جيل الغرب الآن يريد تدمير الحدود وإقامة الوحدة وإقامة القوة ومواجهة التحدي وتحرير فلسطين. هذا تحدي، أمة تتحدى فيكم، يجب أن تتحدوا عن الأمة. لماذا؟ أنتم جبناء ما عندكمش إمكانيات. أمة بيجية تتحدى فيكم، يجب أن تتحدوها مش تطلع رأس أمامها. ما تسمعوش أي كلام. يا وحدة يا تصبح زي بنود العمر، تصبح بنود العمر وإلى الأمام نحن السلام.
This is a historic day for the Middle East. The collapse of the Assad regime, the tyranny in Damascus, offers great opportunity, but also is fraught with significant dangers. This collapse is a direct result of our forceful action against Hezbollah and Iran, Assad's main supporters. It set off a chain reaction of all those who want to free themselves from this tyranny and its suppression. But it also means we have to take action against possible threats. One of them is the collapse of the Separation of Forces Agreement from 1974 between Israel and Syria. This agreement held for 50 years. Last night it collapsed. The Syrian army abandoned its positions. We gave the Israeli army the order to take over these positions to ensure that no hostile force embeds itself right next to the border of Israel. This is a temporary defensive position until a suitable arrangement is found. Equally, we send a hand of peace to all those beyond our border in Syria, to the Druze, to the Kurds, to the Christians, and to the Muslims who want to live in peace with Israel. We're going to follow events very carefully. If we can establish neighborly relations and peaceful relations with the new forces emerging in Syria, that's our desire. But if we do not, we'll do whatever it takes to defend the state of Israel and the border of Israel.
Tell me what this feels like. This is absolutely amazing. After all of these years, we are live on the international TV. This is amazing. This is unspeakable. This is us after 50 years of darkness. This is us after 50 years of death. This is absolutely amazing.
Did you ever imagine? You know, we've had 14 years now. Did you ever imagine?
No, this is not. You can't even cross this idea over your mind. Never. This is actually. It's every day you woke up and you go out of the door and think that I'm gonna die now. I'm gonna die now. Tomorrow I'm gonna die. This is all of what we have been raised on for the past 13 years. I have no idea how to tell you how I am feeling right now. This is absolutely amazing. I have no words.
You have no words. You know, some people are concerned that a lot of the rebels are Islamists. They are from organizations that have extremist ties. Do you worry about
For me, after what I have witnessed yesterday and what happened in Sednaya prison, this is absolutely fine. Let's have the rebellions. Let's have this Islamic whatever shit over going out. This is more peaceful than what the regime and the Assad regime was doing to our mother, to our daughters, to our people here in Syria. Anything that would come after the Assad regime would be more humanic or more humane. You can say this is unspeakable. This is unbelievable.
Julie,
I have no words. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for sharing our freedom. Thank you for being with us.
The Israeli regime's aggression against Syria has escalated significantly, marked by further ground incursions into the country. On Friday, the regime's Minister for Military Affairs, Israel Katz, directed the regime's troopers to prepare for a stay throughout the winter in the UN-patrolled buffer zone on Syria's Golan Heights. He officially announced the occupation of the Jebel al-Sheikh region in Golan, saying that the regime has taken control of the region after 51 years. Israel had already been occupying parts of Syria's Golan Heights since the 1967 war, but last week, after the fall of the Syrian government, it took advantage of the instability and captured more areas. It claimed that the 1974 ceasefire agreement with the Arab country is no longer valid, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stating that the move is necessary to prevent hostile forces from embedding themselves near the Israeli-occupied territories. As of December 10, Israeli tanks had been spotted in several Syrian villages, including Bir Ejam, extending as far as Atana, just 26 kilometers from Damascus. The Israeli military advance has displaced Syrians in several areas. In addition to ground operations, Israel's Air Force has conducted over 500 airstrikes across Syria, targeting vital military sites in Damascus, Dara, and Latakia. The strikes have destroyed significant military infrastructure, including the Syrian naval fleet. The UN chief Antonio Guterres also described Israel's airstrikes on Syria as extensive violation of the Arab country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. As the Israeli regime has made stealing people's land a full-time habit and continues to covet territories in the region with impunity, the Syrian interim government remains mostly silent on the Israeli incursion and failed to take any serious action. This has drawn criticism, as many believe that a strong stance is necessary to protect Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Now, to mark the fall of Bashar al-Assad's rule, the Syrians flooded onto the streets to celebrate what is now being dubbed a victory of the revolution. In Damascus, the capital city, large crowds gathered at the iconic Umayyad Mosque, as the new leadership is now promising a transition to what they describe as an inclusive and a non-sectarian government. Men, women, and children flocked to the mosque, an unusual sight in Damascus, with some also raising the Syrian independence flag used by the opposition since 2011. Syria's new caretaker Prime Minister Mohammed al-Bashir also arrived at the historic Umayyad Mosque for the Friday prayers. Now, the fall of Bashar al-Assad has also prompted many Syrian refugees to return home, while families are desperately searching for their loved ones who had disappeared during the rule of Bashar al-Assad. Meanwhile, the American Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is touring the region to discuss stability post-Assad. During his visit to Turkey, Blinken stressed the importance of preventing an ISIS resurgence in Syria and also ensuring regional peace.
We're very focused on Syria, very focused on the opportunity that now is before us and before the Syrian people to move from out from under the shackles of Bashar al-Assad to a different and better future for the Syrian people, one that the Syrian people decide for themselves. And we talked about how Turkey, how the United States, how other partners in the region can support those efforts. And I think there's broad agreement on what we would each like to see going forward, starting with the interim government in Syria, one that is inclusive and non-sectarian, one that protects the rights of minorities and women, one that preserves institutions of the state and delivers services to the people, one that deals with any chemical weapons that may find to secure them and appropriately destroy them, one that rejects any alliances with extremist groups, and of course, one that does not pose any kind of threat to any of Syria's neighbors. We also discussed the imperative of continuing the efforts to keep ISIS down. Our countries worked very hard and gave a lot over many years to ensure the elimination of the territorial caliphate of ISIS, to ensure that that threat doesn't rear its head again, and it's imperative that we keep at those efforts.
The G7 nations have in fact pledged their support for Syria's transitional government, while also calling for human rights protections and accountability for Assad's regime. Meanwhile, the Global Chemical Weapons Watchdog held an emergency meeting on Thursday to address Syria's toxic chemical stockpiles following Assad's overthrow. The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons urged Syria to comply with safety and destruction rules after rebels took Damascus.
I'm not a Muslim, but I wish that the Caliphate would come back, and I'll tell you why. The Caliphate have a way to protect the poor people. The jizya that we used to pay, it's only for the rich Jews. Poor Jews that didn't have money used to be received tax credit from the Muslims. Caliphate was the justice among the Caliphate was amazing. We see that the Muslim nations today are divided because world superpowers, in order to weaken the Muslims and to enjoy and to take advantage of their natural amazing resources, which they have combined all over the Muslim area, oil and gold. One strong caliphate from Morocco to Pakistan to Bangladesh would be a solid caliphate which will bring a lot of honor, unity, prosperity, justice. Zionism will come to an end. All the rabbis before the Second World War said that the Zionists will be driven out of Palestine, but Jews will remain with the Palestinians.
Seriously though, how did an Al-Qaeda associate suddenly turn into Deepak Chopra?
You've gone through quite the transformation. Once an Al-Qaeda leader, and now you are projecting this image of a moderate leader and a moderate group.
I believe that everyone in life goes through phases and experiences, and these experiences naturally increase a person's awareness. A person in their 20s will have a different personality than someone in their 30s or 40s.
I get it. Who amongst us hasn't gone through an emo phase, or a goth phase, or a 9/11 phase, you know? You know how kids are. I don't like jihad anymore, Dad. I'm into horses. Giuliani's purported transformation to a more benevolent governance gives me hope as our country goes through its hopefully peaceful transfer of power.
These are the steps we are working on. It is still too early to talk about the details of how that government will be formed. Now we have to focus on reactivating Syria's institutions.
Can I get your reaction to these Israeli airstrikes? We've had over 300 now.
Our priority is to restore security and services, to revive civilian life in institutions, and care for newly liberated cities. There are many urgent parts of day-to-day life to restore: bakeries, electricity, water, communications. So our priority is to provide those services to the people.
I understand it's not your priority, but are you honestly telling me that you have nothing to say about Israel striking 300 sites in this country?
Have no doubt, we want everyone to respect the sovereignty of the new Syria. This point is very important to us.
أتكلم معكم غريب الشهادات لقناة كان 11 الإسرائيلية. أعزائي جيراننا أحبتنا في دولة إسرائيل الصديقة، أكلمكم الآن والفرحة تغمرني وتغمر كل أهالي درعا، والفرحة تغمر كل أهالي حوران بعد زوال هذا النظام، بعد زوال 40 عام وهو جاثي على صدورنا، بعد زوال 40 عام من الاضطهاد. أكلمكم بلساني ولسان كل إنسان حر في درعا وسائر. والمرحلة القادمة ستكون مرحلة وئام ومرحلة محبة ومرحلة سلام مع دولة إسرائيل. لا وجود لمتطرفين، لا وجود لمتطرفين، لا وجود لمتطرفين، وجود للمحبة، وجود للسلام. نعم أن تدخل إسرائيل وتعمل استثمارات.
We must give it its right by restoring people's dignity and pride, and by building it properly. The opportunities are available to us, and the people who have immigrated, who have sought asylum, who have been displaced, they must return. All these people must return so that hand in hand we can build the next Syria, God willing.
Since 2011, when the civil war erupted following Assad's deadly clampdown on anti-government protests, more than 6 million Syrians have fled the country. That's around a quarter of the population.
الأوقاف بمحاسبة من يخل في الآداب العامة، نحن هون دخلنا في تنازع في الصلاحيات. كيف؟ وراح طلع لنا إشكالات كثيرة. فنحن ارتأينا أن تكون هي جزء من وزارة الداخلية، وأن يكون لدى وزارة الداخلية شرطة آداب يشرف عليها بعض الإخوة الشرعيين والدعاة، ويغلبوا جانب الدعوة على جانب العصا. فيا إخواني، نحن إذا غلبنا العصا في الدعوة، هذا يدل على عجز في قدرتنا على إيصال الحق إلى الناس. والإسلام دين حق، يعني هو قوي بذاته، يحتاج عصا لمن يقف في وجهه في العصا، من يحول بيننا وبين دعوتنا بالقوة نجابهه في القوة، وهذه الجهاد فرض لأجل هذا الأمر.
الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله، والله أكبر، والله أكبر ولله الحمد. نهنيكم يا أهل الشام بنصركم بإسقاط بشار الأسد. وعصابته الطاغية ونظامه الظالم ونظامه المستعمر ونظامه العميل. قد تأخر هذا الأوان، ولكن لا نقول إلا ما يرضي الله. قد آن أوان سقوطك، ولكن يا أهل الشام الحذر الحذر، فقد خرجنا من بيوتنا ومن بيوت الله عملا بقول الله تعالى: إن تنصروا الله ينصركم ويثبت أقدامكم. فيجب أن نحافظ على هذا النصر، أن نستمر على هذا الدرب، أن نستمر على هذا الدرب، وأن لا نقبل الدعم من العملاء ولا من الدول الإقليمية العميلة ولا من أمريكا.
The people of Syria were cheering in the streets right now. I spit on you, and I'll tell you why. Because you don't know what you're cheering for. You don't have a clue. Yes, maybe Bashar al-Assad was corrupt. Maybe there were some problems there. I agree. But you cannot cheer the death of a nation. And that's just what happened. Your nation died. It's not that Bashar al-Assad left. Your nation is dead, and the West is not your friend. You have no friends. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants to be with you. Nobody will support you. You will be abandoned by everybody as death and despair and destruction manifests itself further in your nation. The jihadis are in control. All you women that wore your Western clothes, hang it up. All you Christians who worshipped in your Christian, you're done. Your heads are off. This will become a jihadist state, and the parts of Syria that don't want to become a jihadist state will become an anti-jihadist rebellion, and then you'll have civil war, civil conflict, death and destruction. That's what you got. Bashar al-Assad may not have been perfect. Maybe he needed to go. But if you're cheering right now, you're cheering for the wrong thing, because your nation is gone. It's finished. It's gone the way of Libya. It's gone the way of Iraq. Dysfunctional states populated by people that don't get along.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper. He said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense office today. And he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
Example, the war in Syria. And you may actually hear from grown-up reporters who are lying through their teeth or ignorant beyond imagining that, oh, the war in Syria, yes, Russia intervened in Syria. Well, do you know that that Obama tasked the CIA to overthrow the Syrian government, starting 4 years before Russia intervened? What kind of nonsense is that? And how many times did the New York Times report on Operation Timber Sycamore, which was the presidential order to the CIA to overthrow Bashar al-Assad? 3 times in 10 years. This is not democracy. This is a game. And it's a game of narrative. Why did the U.S. invade Iraq in 2003? Well, first of all, it was completely phony pretenses. It wasn't, oh, we were so wrong, they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. They actually did focus groups in the fall of 2002 to find out what would sell that war to the American people. Abe Schultzke, if you want to know the name of the PR genius. They did focus groups on the war. They wanted the war all the time. They had to figure out how to sell the war to the American people, how to scare the shit out of the American people. It was a phony war. Where did that war come from? You know what? It's quite surprising. That war came from Netanyahu, actually. You know that? It's weird. And the way it is that Netanyahu had from 1995 onward the theory that the only way we're going to get rid of Hamas and Hezbollah is by toppling the governments that support them. That's Iraq, Syria, and Iran. And the guy's nothing if not obsessive. And he's still trying to get us to fight Iran this day, this week. He's a deep, dark son of a bitch, sorry to tell you, because he's gotten us into endless wars, and because of the power of all of this in the U.S. politics, he's gotten his way. But that war was totally phony. So what is this democracy versus dictatorship? Come on. These are not even sensible terms.
For the United States, ISIS is a useful tool, but it's also a disposable tool. And it's also an excuse, right? As an excuse to stay in Syria, to continue to destabilize Syria. Earlier this year, the U.S. proxies in the northeast of Syria, right, the Syrian Democratic forces, the Kurds, they released hundreds of ISIS fighters in the Syrian desert and near the Iraqi border. And they hold in these prisons, right? In these prisons where you have tens of thousands of ISIS members and their families. I think this is a new day for the entire axis of resistance and a larger than that for the entirety of West Asia, because now you have a state that is essentially ruled by former ISIS commanders, by former Al-Qaeda commanders. You have a person like al-Jilani, who has a $10 million bounty on his head, getting primetime interviews with CNN. Right, the CNN interviewer wearing a hijab when they refused to do it for the elected president of Iran a few years ago. So this is just a brave new world for everyone involved.
My name is Richard Medhurst. I'm a British journalist. I was born and baptized in Syria. So let me give you my perspective on what's happening in Syria, both as a Christian and a journalist who cares deeply about the future of the country. For the last days, the media have been showing images of people celebrating and jubilating and saying the country is finally free and everything is fine and dandy. But this couldn't be further from the truth. The media have been lying about Syria for 13 years. And many Syrians will come to find that they have been duped. This was not a revolution, but a regime change operation. Syria was the last anti-Zionist Arab state in the region. It was the last one that supported the Palestinian cause. And they've been trying to destroy it for decades. In 2011, dozens of foreign countries and groups conspired to overthrow the government. Turkey, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UK, France, Germany, the US, the EU. Many jihadists came in from Chechnya, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. You've got fighters now in from Ukraine, Turkey, Libya, Uyghurs from China. Many of them are not Syrian. The CIA spent over $1 billion trying to overthrow the president. So that's their most expensive operation in history. Right? They brought all those weapons in from Libya after they did another regime change operation there. This was the largest propaganda campaign in modern history. MI6 were funding the white helmets and other cutouts. They lied about chemical weapons, just like they lied about them in Iraq, to justify bombing and sanctioning Syria and crippling its economy. Syria is not only occupied by Israel, but by 2 NATO armies, by Turkey, by the United States. And all these rebels got their training and their gear from those actors. You've got a photo of Jolani, who's just casually standing there, watching Damascus as it's being bombed by Israel, doing nothing. And what is he wearing? He's wearing a T-shirt, a shirt from Emerson Gear. So that's either Israel or Turkey that gave it to him. And Turkey was giving these terrorists safe haven in Idlib for years. Syria cannot be removed from the geopolitical context of the Levant. You can't talk about Syria like it's some remote island where things happen in a vacuum. Syria was the piece that connected Iran and Iraq to Lebanon and Palestine. The timing of this offensive in the last few days wasn't a coincidence. It happened right after there was a ceasefire in Lebanon. So as they destroyed Gaza, as they destroyed Lebanon, the Israelis then moved on to destroy Syria. And Turkey, which again is a co-conspirator in all this, is admitting, Erdogan is admitting that he is behind the offensive. He said it on camera. Erdogan is supporting Israel. He is NATO. He is Muslim Brotherhood. So when you have Erdogan admitting this and then Netanyahu doing a victory lap on Syrian soil on the occupied Golan Heights, I mean, what am I supposed to say?
המשטר הזה נפל, זוהי תוצאה ישירה של המכות שהנחתנו על איראן ועל חיזבאללה.
The day that Syria fell, Palestine also fell. These jihadists are an extension of NATO, okay? They've got NATO training, NATO weapons. And have you noticed that they never attack Israel, ever? Erdogan and Al-Qaeda, all they do is talk about the Ummah, and yet they won't lift a finger for Palestine? These jihadists are in Damascus, under the Israeli bombs, and they still won't fire a shot at Israel. They won't even talk about the bombings. These rebels have conspired to leave Syria defenseless. Instead of fighting Israel, they're busy changing flags and eating ice cream and giving speeches. That's how much they care about Syria. And make no mistake, because these are extremists, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is a rebrand of Jabhat al-Nusra, which is a rebrand of Al-Qaeda. Jolani, who now they're trying to portray as some kind of statesman and a moderate, was the head of Al-Qaeda's branch in Syria. He was a deputy of al-Baghdadi in ISIS. The US even put a $10 million bounty on this guy's head. He is a head chopper. He is a terrorist. You think Al-Qaeda is going to give Syrians freedom of speech and protect minorities and make people equal? They're already carrying out public executions, beatings. This is vigilantism. And they said they'd give Syrian soldiers amnesty and then lied about it. And they filmed their own executions. How is Al-Qaeda being in charge of Syria better than the previous regime? The people cheering this on are mental. You've taken away a bad car and then given people a bicycle instead and called it a set of wheels. I mean, this is a downgrade, to put it mildly, in every way. Syria was secular. Syria was safe for all religions and ethnic groups. Syria, remember, is a Christian country first. Christianity was born in Syria. Syria is just as much Christian as it is Muslim. But now Christians and other minorities are under threat. The first photo that they post of this new cabinet and this new prime minister, this is a state institution, right? They've got an Islamic extremist flag right next to the Syrian flag, the new Syrian flag. What kind of message is that supposed to send to Syrian Christians who make up 10% of the population and other minorities? It tells them, basically, screw you. You're excluded. That's what it means. And we see the extremism on the streets. We see the ISIS trucks driving through Christian neighborhoods in downtown Damascus, firing Kalashnikovs into the air and terrorizing people. A Christian journalist who was stopped in a Christian neighborhood and questioned about her religion.
أجبرني أن أقول هذا الشيء. هل تطلع فيه إنه أنت مسيحية علوية سنية مسلمية؟ لا، إنه شيعية درزية.
I mean, this is unheard of in Syria. You've got priests that are hiding their crosses when they take photos with these new leaders. And then we're supposed to look at that and believe that this is inclusive. This climate of fear did not exist a week ago, all right? Syria is going backwards. Syria was self-sufficient in oil, gas, wheat, cotton, grain. Syria had no foreign debt. Its central bank, its monetary policy were independent. They were not controlled by the West. Syria had free healthcare, free education, social welfare programs, social safety nets, improved literacy rate, improved infrastructure. I saw all of that with my own eyes. And now what is happening? It has regressed. But as soon as this new regime in Damascus announced that Syria will be a free market economy, meaning come in, bring your foreign direct investment so you can control our monetary policy and our politics, what happens? The United States removes Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, meaning Al-Qaeda, from the terrorist list. Isn't that amazing? The West and Israel have been dying to move on Syria's gas, and that's exactly what they're going to do, just like they're going to steal Gaza's and Lebanon's gas, so they can replace the Iranian and Russian gas, which they sanctioned. In 1 or 2 years, Syrians will be begging for the old days, just like Iraqis and Libyans do right now, when they remember what their countries were turned into by NATO. And look at the level of whitewashing, right? Do you hear any of the Western media talking about persecution of minorities and how Christians are being treated? Instead, they're rehabilitating this disgusting head chopper, Jolani. They're glorifying Al-Qaeda in the media, but I'm the one who gets arrested for terrorism, right? I'm the one who's under investigation, even though they're breaking the law.
But I think Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani, the leader, has made great efforts over the last 10 years to distance himself from those terrorist groups. And certainly the actions we've seen of Tahrir al-Sham over the last 2 weeks has been those of a liberation movement, not of a terrorist organization.
And then they have the nerve to complain about Russia invading Ukraine, but they call Israel's invasion a buffer zone. The nerve! Don't forget that Israel has a Greater Israel project. You've got IDF troops who openly carry patches of Greater Israel on their uniforms. Smotrich, the finance minister, said on video just a few weeks ago that he wants Greater Israel to extend to Damascus, to swallow up the Syrian capital.
Bezalel Smotrich a une vision maximaliste de la terre promise. Elle inclut les territoires palestiniens, mais aussi des territoires en Jordanie, en Syrie, au Liban, en Irak, en Égypte ou encore en Arabie.
And many who are pro-Palestine are still too dumb to understand that there is an Israeli agenda in Syria. And don't forget, Erdogan had control of Idlib and was harboring all these terrorist groups that he sent on the offensive. Turkey attacked Syria from the north. Turkey's now moving its own troops into Aleppo. And Israel attacked Syria from the south, while the Americans are in the east occupying the oil. And what did Israel do? Israel took control of Mount Hermon, of Jabal el-Sheikh. This is the most strategic place inside of Syria. It's the highest peak. It overlooks Israeli troop positions. And they took it without a fight. They've taken an area of land now in the last 48 hours that's several times the size of Gaza. They have destroyed Syria's military infrastructure, missiles, tanks, planes, ships, you name it, research laboratories. This is Israel's largest air offensive in history. Over 400 airstrikes. Not a word from these so-called rebels who claim to be representing the interests of Syrians. Israeli troops are 19 kilometers from Damascus. And the irony is the Israelis pretend that, oh, they don't want the weapons to fall into the hands of jihadists. You're the ones who gave the jihadists weapons in the first place. Netanyahu was in hospital, in an IDF hospital, shaking the hands of these so-called moderate rebels who are Al-Qaeda and doing photo ops with them. They were giving them medical assistance. They were giving them weapons. They were doing everything in their power, acting as an air force for them in order to help them overthrow and topple the government in Syria. And now we've got reports of scientists also being killed and hunted down in Syria, which is exactly what Israel did in Iran. They are crippling Syria's defenses for generations. And any government that is formed now is already going to be neutered, impotent, and illegitimate, and will have no sovereignty. How can you form a government? How can you defend the country when you allowed the enemy to destroy all of the military assets? This is treason. It's frankly treason. And the United States said they'll call the Golan Heights, the occupied Golan Heights, Israeli, as long as Assad is in power.
As long as Assad is in power in Syria, as long as Iran is present in Syria, militia groups backed by Iran, the Assad regime itself, all of these pose a significant security threat to Israel. And as a practical matter, control of the Golan in that situation, I think, remains of real importance to Israel's security.
Well, guess what? Bashar al-Assad is gone. And yet they haven't changed their position. Joe Biden has kept Donald Trump's position of stealing land from Syria. The United States put Caesar Act sanctions on Syria. Bashar al-Assad is gone. Have they lifted the sanctions? No, the sanctions are still there. Is the U.S. Still controlling the wheat? Is it still controlling Syria's oil fields? Yes, it is. Donald Trump admitted it. Joe Biden kept them there, and now Bashar al-Assad is gone, and they still won't move their troops. They're still right there stealing our resources. Isn't it amazing? So in conclusion, Turkey is stealing more land. Turkey is going to attack the Kurds and persecute them and now has them surrounded. Israel is stealing more land. Israel's destroyed Syria's military and Syria's central role in the Palestinian cause. And Jolani and his Al-Qaeda scum are going to sit on the throne. And U.S. corporations and banks will take over Syria's economy, hollow it out, steal its resources, and block the new Silk Road's access to the Mediterranean Sea so they can cripple China and the global south. This has been their plan all along. The same people that are committing a genocide in Gaza have taken over Syria under the banner of a fake revolution. And those who call themselves pro-Palestinian, many of them are too blind to see that by celebrating what is happening in Syria, they're siding with Netanyahu.
With the breaking news coming into us, Syria opposition activists and a rebel commander are reported to have reached the suburbs of the Syrian capital, Damascus. And these pictures coming into us are the toppling of a statue of President Bashar al-Assad's father in the suburbs of Damascus. So we believe around 10 kilometers or so from the city centre, a significant moment in this war, which has been raging on for more than a decade, of course, reminiscent, this imagery of that moment. The statue of Saddam Hussein was once toppled in Iraq, of course.
Everyone's focus fell on the statue of Saddam.
Will you bring this statue down?
The Americans brought in a tank recovery vehicle. One over-exuberant Marine couldn't resist a bit of flag-waving patriotism first. The stars and stripes were taken down and replaced by the Iraqi flag. Then the moment of history. Saddam's regime could finally be said to be at an end.
There it goes!
Do you know why the US wants to separate Xinjiang from the rest of China? Because Xinjiang's location is way too important geopolitically. So here, China can bring something to the entire Eurasia that some US politicians scare the most: peace. Let me explain why. First, Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, located in northwest of China, connects China with Central Asia. Xinjiang shares borders with 8 countries: Mongolia, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. Xinjiang wasn't just a key hub in the Asian Silk Road, it's also a key gate for the current Belt and Road Initiative to expand westwards. It will connect East Asia, Central Asia, West Asia, and Europe. This is the region that the US government and several Western countries have been spending billions of dollars in the past decades to sponsor terrorism, wars, and instabilities. The textbook divide and conquer strategy. Because Eurasia is too big. If they unite, they will be too strong. And that is threatening for the US to maintain its exceptional position in the world. In other words, hegemony over the world. However, China's Belt and Road Initiative are bringing infrastructure and economic development to this region. China-Europe railways go through here. Billions of dollars of trades taking place at the ports in Xinjiang. And this economic development will raise the living standards of people living in this region. And when people are much better off, there will be no reason to participate in wars and terrorism. So the US came out with a plan. How about we support separatism and divide Xinjiang from China? In the 1990s, this political analyst named Graham E. Fuller, who served both in the National Intelligence Council and CIA, wrote a report called The Xinjiang Problem. In this report, he was teaching his fellow politicians and scholars how to play the Uyghur card and stoke separatism among Uyghurs to destabilize and contain China. If you don't believe my words, how about listening to the words of retired U.S. Army Colonel Lauren B. Wilkerson himself? He used to serve as the Chief of Staff to the U.S. Secretary of State, Colin Powell.
The one I spent 31 years in, the military. Here is what it has decided for Afghanistan. I bet you don't know this either. We're in Afghanistan as we were in Germany post-World War II. That is for at least a half a century. It has nothing to do with Kabul and state building, nothing to do with fighting the Taliban or proving that we can reconcile with the Taliban, and nothing to do with fighting any terrorist group, because it is the only hard power the United States has that sits proximate to the Central Base Road Initiative of China that runs across Central Asia. If we had to impact that with military power, we are in position to do so in Afghanistan. Second reason we're there is because we're cheek and jowl with the potentially most unstable nuclear stockpile on the face of the earth in Pakistan. We want to be able to leap on that stockpile and stabilize it if necessary. And the third reason we're there is because there are 20 million Uyghurs, and if the CIA has to mount an operation using those Uyghurs, as Erdogan has done in Turkey against Assad, there are 20,000 of them in Idlib in Syria right now, for example. That's why the Chinese might be deploying military forces to Syria in the very near future to take care of those Uyghurs that Erdogan invited in. Well, the CIA would want to destabilize China, and that would be the best way to do it, to foment unrest and to join with those Uyghurs in pushing the Han Chinese and Beijing from internal places rather than external.
Unfortunately for the US, their plan to separate China is failing. All 56 ethnic groups in China will love and support each other, will unite and hold on to each other like pomegranate seeds. And we will unite with the rest of the world to build a community with a shared future for all mankind.
Hello
Hello, everyone. This is the New Rules Podcast, and I'm your host, Dimitri Simes Jr. Syria is back in the news again. Terrorists from Hayat Tahrir al-Sham have launched a large-scale offensive in northern Syria, capturing the city of Aleppo. The coming days and weeks will determine whether the terrorists will seize even more territory or whether the Assad government and its allies can regain the strategic initiative. Today, we're recording a special episode on Syria. Our goal is to help you see the broader geopolitical forces driving this war. After all, the Syrian civil war is not simply a conflict between the Assad government and its opponents. Like it or not, Syria has effectively become an international battlefield, featuring the US, Turkey, Russia, Iran, Qatar, Israel, and other regional players. This is an ambitious and complicated topic. So to help us decipher what's really going on, we asked for help from top experts on Syria and the Middle East. Independent journalist Vanessa Beeley, founder of Syriana analysis Kevork Almasian, and Tehran University professor Saeed Mohammed Morandi. For starters, let's take a look at Syria's broader role in the region. As Vanessa Beeley told us, Syria is one of the most important bulwarks against Israeli influence in the Middle East.
Syria, if you look at it geographically, of course, it's the absolute spine of the resistance axis. It's the main central land bridge for materials to come from Iran through Iraq, through Syria and into Lebanon to Hezbollah, and then on into Palestine to the Palestinian resistance groups. But not only that, Syria is also, or has been historically, manufacturing weapons on its own territory. It has multiple research and development centers, and it has been manufacturing and providing weapons to the resistance in Lebanon and in Palestine for years, even since the regime change war to topple the Syrian government began in 2011. And of course, we shouldn't forget that one of the main reasons that this war was kicked off against Syria in 2011 was because, among many issues, that President Assad refused to come on board with the West with regard to these issues. One of them, of course, was to abandon the resistance axis, to end their historic alliance with Iran, to stop supporting Hezbollah, and to stop supporting the Palestinian nationalist and justice movements.
Now, as you can imagine, Assad's support for the Palestinian and Lebanese resistance has put Syria in Israel's crosshairs. In fact, just last week, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu publicly threatened Assad, warning the Syrian leader that he was, quote, playing with fire. It's worth noting that this wasn't an isolated incident. Syrian officials and lawmakers have been threatening Syria and Assad for months. Vanessa Beeley explained that it's no coincidence that the fighting in Syria flared up almost immediately after the Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire was announced.
Israel has been funding the terrorist groups, arming the terrorist groups, providing medical treatment for the terrorist groups inside Syria since 2011, and on occasions in the south, even providing covering artillery fire for the terrorist groups fighting the Syrian Arab Army factions. If we look at the timing, the attack came hours after the ceasefire came into effect between the Lebanese resistance, Hezbollah, and Israel. At that point, Netanyahu, I believe, kind of wanted to take his foot off the pedal to stop the invasion, the ground invasion, which they were losing desperately in the south of Lebanon. Militarily, they were losing, and to bring into effect UN Resolution 1701, which would mean that the Lebanese army would take control of the south of Lebanon. The Lebanese army, unfortunately, is sponsored by the US and is kept at a level that it's incapable of defending itself against Israel. And of course, Israel is receiving billions of some of the most sophisticated weapons from the US. And so this gave Netanyahu a breather. It allowed him to wait for the new weapon supply from the United States post the ceasefire. And we've seen him now responding to one rocket from Hezbollah with, I think it was 38 strikes last night on the south of Beirut, no, sorry, the south of Lebanon. And so for Netanyahu, at that point, I predicted that the pivot would be towards Syria. And we had been warned about a month ago that there was potential for a concerted attack from the northwest, from Jolani himself. He cancelled the attack, potentially waiting for the ceasefire to come into effect. So he was waiting for the instruction from Israel, in my opinion. And of course, that came immediately after the ceasefire. What is Israel doing? It's collaborating with Turkey also, because Turkey, as I said, has control of the SNA factions from the north. And what it's attempting to do, I think, is to, without actually expending its own military and its own air force at this point, it's using the terrorists as a battering ram to take control of the supply line roads.
Whenever you find an Israeli trace in these sort of conflicts, that usually means the United States is close behind. And that definitely is the case for Syria. Ever since the Syrian civil war began in 2011, the U.S. has been arming and training anti-Assad militant groups. As part of the now infamous Operation Timber Sycamore, the CIA allocated over $1 billion to extremist groups in Syria between 2013 and 2017. But the U.S. has gone beyond just proxy war operations in Syria. The U.S. military illegally occupies large swaths of Syrian territory, including the oil-rich northwest and Al-Tanf, which is located on Syria's border with Iraq and Jordan. Some people have expressed cautious optimism that Donald Trump will wind down the U.S. war in Syria. But as Kavorka Massian explained, that is highly unlikely.
The United States has multiple strategic interests in Syria. First of all, they want to kick the Russian fleet from the Mediterranean, just like they wanted to kick out the Russian fleet from the Black Sea. And Russia sees these two seas in the Black Sea and in the Mediterranean as very important and strategic and existential threats against its national security, because during the Cold War era, the Americans had an upper hand over the international waters. And during the Cold War, the Soviet Union and now Russia, they have learned the lessons of the past. So when the coup happened in Kiev in 2014, the first thing the Russians have done, they have organized a referendum in the Crimea and they captured it. And similarly in Syria, we have the Russian fleet in the Mediterranean, and from the Mediterranean to the Black Sea, there is a route that Russia can access both seas in an easy manner. Unlike if the situation is upside down and they have been kicked out, for example, from the Mediterranean, they will have to do a very long turn around the African Horn. So this is number one. The second thing is they want to kick out any Russian influence in the region, Iranian influence in the region. And in this case, they see Syria, as I mentioned, as the strategic depth of the axis of resistance, and they understand that were it not for Syria, there is no Hezbollah, and were it not for Syria, the Palestinian armed struggle will be over. Therefore, they want to end the Arab-Israeli conflict through hitting Syria. The third strategic, I would say, interest of the US is to block China's Road and Silk Initiative from reaching to the eastern shore of the Mediterranean. So by stationing their forces, for example, on the eastern shore of the Euphrates, they're blocking China's free access to the trade markets, basically, in the region by keeping the country destabilized and stationing their own troops, basically, there. One last important factor why the Americans are very interested in Syria is to extend the Qatari gas pipelines to Europe. Now, this was a project before the destruction of the Nord Stream pipelines, but they wanted, by supplying or extending these gas pipelines from Qatar to Turkey, for Turkey to become the distributor for the Qatari gas to Europe. And if they manage to do that, Europe will no longer need the Russian gas. But when this project failed, because President Assad survived for now 14 years of war, and he vetoed these gas pipelines, the Americans went and they destroyed the Nord Stream pipelines in the seas. So they did what they wanted to do through soft power, which means like giving Qatar this privilege and power over Europe, because Qatar is a major non-NATO ally. This is the title of Qatar in the U.S. Foreign Secretary of State. Therefore, they wanted to kill the Nord Stream project through extending these pipelines, something that they have failed. But if, again, Assad is gone and country is divided and destroyed like they wanted to be, then Qataris will have again the opportunity to extend their gas pipelines.
Let's take a closer look at Qatar. People generally don't think of Qatar as a military power, and they're right to do so. But Qatar has 3 geopolitical assets at its disposal: huge oil and gas reserves, an effective media machine, and U.S. military support. As Kavorka Amazian told us, despite its small size, Qatar has played an outsized role in the Syrian civil war.
The country which gave the most financial support to the terrorist groups in Syria, especially to al-Nusra Front, the offshoot of Al-Qaeda in Syria, was Qatar. Qatar funneled tens of billions of dollars to these militants in Syria. Qatar has played an instrumental role through its media outlets like Al Jazeera and other smaller outlets in the region. And they have waged serious psychological operations against the Syrian people and the Syrian army. And these psychological operations were one of the main reasons for the rapid crumbling of the front lines in western Aleppo a few days ago when the invasion started. Many people haven't followed these psychological operations in Arabic. I did. And they were very scary, and they gave the impression that the head troopers are coming, and many people evacuated their places after fear, because everybody still remembers, the memories are alive, how these head troopers come and slaughter people based on their religion, sect, or their affiliation to the government. Even if you're a teacher working for a government school, you could be killed. So imagine the fear that they have spread among the people. Qatar is a major player in this. Qatar sees them in the Syrian war as an opportunity to present itself as a regional power to replace Saudi Arabia, number one. Second, it sees itself as a country to impose new realities in the Arab world in terms of toppling the, for example, previously the Egyptian, Libyan, Tunisian governments, and then in Syria, and replace them with Islamist governments, especially the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the ideology in Qatar and in Turkey. So by creating or replacing these governments with Islamist governments affiliated to the Muslim Brotherhood, then Qatar will have an influence in the great influence in the Middle East and North Africa. Also, Qatar will extend, as I mentioned, the gas pipeline to Europe, something that could bring them huge profits. And they will have, let's say, a very big influence compared to their size. So they had their aspirations in Syria, and their enthusiasm has never been diminished. Even though Syria liberated most of its territories in the past years, Qatar was the only Arab country which objected normalizing relations with the Assad government. And they've been very adamant and very determined to continue their propaganda through their media outlets and funneling these materials.
But of course, this episode wouldn't be complete if we didn't talk about Turkey's involvement. From the very beginning of the conflict, Turkey has armed and trained anti-Assad militants. It's also facilitated the transport of fighters from Central Asia, North Africa, and the Caucasus to Syria. But in this case, I think a picture is worth more than 1,000 words. Here's a photograph of a HTS militant raising the Turkish flag over the Aleppo citadel. But I think one of the unanswered questions is whether Erdogan coordinated with the Americans and Israelis when it comes to the recent events in Syria. Erdogan has loudly criticized Israel's war in Gaza. But as Professor Marandi points out, that doesn't mean he wasn't simultaneously cooperating with the Israelis on Syria.
Erdogan cares about Erdogan. In that sense, he is very similar to Netanyahu. They're also similar in other ways as well, as we're seeing in Gaza, what Netanyahu is doing, in Lebanon, what he did, and in Syria, what Erdogan is doing. Erdogan wants to increase his sphere of influence in Syria, and he has ambitions for many parts of Syria. But unfortunately, for the Syrian people, Erdogan has been using the most extreme of extremists. He has been working very closely with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, of course, with U.S. support, with oil and gas money from the Persian Gulf, with NATO support, and along with Western intelligence agencies, he brought in tens of thousands of foreign fighters from across the world. And in the recent fighting, we've seen a large number of fighters from Central Asia, from China, and which tomorrow these terrorists will pose a security threat to the whole continent of Asia. And I think that's something that the Americans would like. But he's been using these extremists to carry out mass slaughter and to help him gain access to greater parts of Syria, to help him reach his ambitions. And so he has weakened Syria significantly, but the timing of this particular attack is extraordinary. And it's clear that it was done in coordination with Netanyahu and the Americans. Because as soon as we saw the ceasefire in Lebanon, this large army of ISIS and Al-Qaeda extremists, they launched their attack across Syria. And they tried to take as much territory as they could. And if you recall, Netanyahu had threatened Syria. And also one reason why he accepted the ceasefire was because he said he wanted to deal with the so-called Iranian threat. So putting two and two together is not very difficult.
And that's all for today. Please like and repost this video so that the truth about in Syria can reach as much people as possible.
6 ملايين لا يوجد أي دليل بأن هناك 6 ملايين يهودي قتلوا. محارق لا أحد ينفيها وهناك معسكرات اعتقال صحيح، ولكن الدليل على أن هذا الموضوع مسيس وليس إنساني ولا حقيقي. كيف نتحدث عن 6 ملايين ولا نتحدث عن 26 مليون سوفيتي قتلوا في تلك الحرب؟ يعني 6 ملايين أغلى. الممارسات نفسها كانت على كل الاتجاهات، لم يكن هناك طرق قتل مختصة باليهود ولا طريقة تعذيب مختصة باليهود. في كل الأماكن نفس الطريقة استخدمتها النازية، ولكن القضية هي قضية مسيسة ولتزوير الحقيقة ولاحقا للتمهيد لنقل اليهود من أوروبا باتجاه مناطق أخرى هي فلسطين. اليهود الذين أتوا إلى فلسطين هم يهود الخزر شرق قزوين، هم وثنيون تبعوا الديانة اليهودية في القرن الثامن الميلادي، هاجروا إلى أوروبا وأتوا إلى هذه المنطقة. لا يوجد أي علاقة بينهم وبين شعب إسرائيل.
Greetings, brothers and sisters from the four corners of the world. Wow, wow, wow. Right? What a video there. More so, what a time to be alive and serve the Most High, to know the Most High, to have understanding. I think we often fail to realize the magnitude of what the truth really is and what understanding is, and even, the foundation of enduring until the end in these times, which is Isaiah 33:6, knowledge and wisdom being the stability of our times. Now, a lot has happened within the past week and a half, almost 2 weeks. Very strange. Some people are wondering, what is going on? Let's take this journey back. In 2022, October, started the, what we say, 2023, excuse me, started the whole Gaza and Israeli situation. Really, we want to call prophecy. Prior to that, 2021, 2020, really 2021, right out of the lockdowns, we had Ukraine and Russia. So Ukraine first, then Israel. I don't know who needs to necessarily hear this, but hoping it's all of you, but there is no such thing as a normal, ever returning. And I sat there and I thought about this lesson. And I remember saying in the lands of salvation, because Assyria, which was the one I was going to first do, and look at this. All right, here we are again. Now, like I said, we started with Ukraine. We started with Israel and Gaza. And as of recently, we really moved into more so of Lebanon, to now we have passed Lebanon and into Syria. Syria is the Roman, the English version, but Syria. Now, I know the first thing people are going to ask me is, why did we play the Trump bringing the stock market exchange bill to bring this in? Now, everything is a symbology. I want you to pay close attention. So what do you see here? What do you see? You see two pictures of Trump, one left, one right. You see two women on the right, three women on the left, one man on the left, and one man on the right. It's a lot of influence here, but that's for another day. Person of the year. Now, we understand that politicians don't make rules until these rules aren't felt until another comes in office or a following year arises. But our question would be, why would this be the Times choice, the Times candidate, the Times nominee for Person of the Year? Donald Trump. And then, why exactly is he ringing the bell? Now, you may say, what does Syria, which is Syria, what does Syria have to do with America and the stock market exchange? Now, obviously, pulling the layer back for the obvious reasons, right? Everyone understands the United States are war hawks and they love war. They make money off of it. They promote it to their people, be a great soldier, serve your nation, so forth and so forth. But you see, this is different because, one, he's not in office yet, and two, prior to this, a few days prior to them ringing this, was the beginning of what we see the destruction of Syria, even though it was destroyed before, and I've done lessons before, but this one is a bit different. That being said, why is it different? You have, and he, by the way, FYI, he made a little, maybe 15-minute, maybe a little shorter than that, speech here, but I actually cut it out. Excuse me, I cut it out. But do the discernment. After Israel's invasion of Syria, which would be known as the Assad takedown, and by the way, anyone who, and this is why it's very important to understand languages, especially in the region where Christ's return is going to be. I know people are going to say, yeah, we're children of Israel, Hebrews, and okay, I get that. But don't be so foolish to understand that learning the pro-Canaanite, it's of no value anymore because no one uses it. Okay. But the message here is Assad, Bashar al-Assad, his name means the lion in Arabic. The lion. Okay. Now, who is the lion? We understand Christ to be the Lion of Judah. We understand lion, more than likely, through the Bible, represents Judah. Something's interesting here. So they've been trying to overthrow this lion, okay, who is over Syria for decades. They finally do it, and they say, here is the time. Now, this is a very clear warning for not only Americans, but for everyone all over the world. More so specifically America and Canada, Mexico, Europe. 2025 just may be the year of the financial collapse. I want you to pay attention to this. With blockchain and Bitcoin and even the UAE trying to convince Muslims that Bitcoin is not haram, which is forbidden or sin, sirk in Arabic. There's a lot of things happening in the world. Where in the United States, people are like, yeah, Bitcoin and Dogecoin and this and that. And then in the Muslim world, they are trying to convince people that it's not evil. I wonder why it's occurring. And why did he need to be at a New York Stock Exchange with the word time when the cover has nothing to do with finances? Well, I'm going to put it very clear to you. 2025, 2026. I'm telling you right now, and I've said this years ago, use it or lose it. Use it or lose it. With that being said, the Bible has already told us in 2nd Ezra 16 that if you sell your things, you'll be able to move. But when a global and economic crash comes falling down upon the heads of billions of people who are unaware, you have nothing to sell. It's all grabs. People will have no more money and different things of that nature. But I just want to share with you that this is the time to pay attention to making your moves as far as safety. Because when the money goes, and it will, as prophesied in Ezekiel 7, there was pestilence and famine and destruction, right? And we're on the cusp of famine. We're already in it. And famine comes by way of inflation and other things. You see that this would be the needle or the piece of hay that broke the camel's back. Now, with that being said, my belief is that because the world is not going to play along with the whole Gaza, which is Gaza situation, the Lebanon situation, and the Syria situation of what's happening with Israel, they're going to crash the entire thing. Now, moving forward, why would they crash the entire thing? Now, it was very important that you recognize the last video of Bashar al-Assad, the lion. And remember that they said that Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president at the time, they said he's a bad person and all these things. But yet, I don't hear
So that the truth about in Syria can reach as
I don't hear none of the rulers, with the exception of the Iranians, stating that these are not
وربما حصلت محارق
God's
فيها وهناك معسكرات
people.
اعتقال صحيح، لكن الدليل على أن هذا الموضوع مسيس وليس إنساني ولا حقيقي. كيف نتحدث عن 6 ملايين ولا نتحدث عن 26 مليون سوفيتي قتلوا في تلك الحرب؟ يعني 6 ملايين أغلى. الممارسات نفسها كانت على كل الاتجاهات، لم يكن هناك طرق قتل مختصة باليهود ولا طريقة تعذيب مختصة باليهود. في كل الأماكن نفس الطريقة استخدمتها النازية، ولكن القضية هي قضية مسيسة ولتزوير الحقيقة ولاحقا
in order to falsify the truth and later to prepare
لنقل اليهود.
the transfer of the Jews from Europe to other areas,
باتجاه مناطق أخرى فيها
or rather Palestine.
اليهود الذين أتوا.
The Jews who came to Palestine are Khazar Jews from east of the Caspian Sea.
إلى فلسطين هم يهود الخزر شرق قزوين، هم وثنيون و
They were pagans who converted to Judaism in the 8th century.
تبعوا الديانة اليهودية في القرن الثامن الميلادي، هاجروا إلى أوروبا.
They immigrated to Europe and from there came to this region. They have nothing to do whatsoever with the ancient people of Israel.
وبين شعب إسرائيل.
Now, nothing to do. Wouldn't it be strange that I am going to tell my government, my people, national TV, of who's ever looking, who's ever watching, that you have these people pretending to be someone they're not. So we're going to stop them right in their tracks and make sure they don't get in the way. Now, I want to share with you how critical this is. All of this is prophecy. Even the Chinese road going from China all the way through Iran or Iran, to Afghanistan, into Iraq and Syria, even that road is very important. Now, you may see Qatar, or they say it's Qatar, but I say Qatar. They're looking to build a pipeline. But in this lesson, Trail of Tears, and it's kind of going to be broken down, I will show you that Chinese highway is what the Most High prophesied for the people from different nations to walk right on through and be transported right on through to the Middle East for all the children of Israel on that side of the world. And that's why Israel wants to stop it. That's why America wants to stop it. That's why Turkey wants to stop it. And they keep using the guise of oil. Come on now. You're going to sit here at this time, brothers and sisters, them using the word oil, they're slapping you in the face saying, hey, these fools will believe anything. You have AI. You have self-driving cars. You have Tesla. Battery-powered cars. You think this is about oil? They're just going to say, these stupid, idiot, ignorant people, they'll believe anything as long as we say something about a pipeline and oil. This has nothing to do with oil. This has everything to do with this highway was going to unite the land of Sinim, the Hamite land, because they sit there calling Africa Ham, but it's not. The land of Sinim, which is China, Hamites, connecting that whole Asian territory to the lands of Elam, lands of Assyria, lands of Hamath, lands of Shinar, aka Isaiah 11:11, and they're heated. Now, Houston, we have a problem. I repeat, we have a big problem. Because now, to the western part of the world, this man is a criminal. Okay, you ready? And he took refuge with Vladimir Putin in Russia. Now, Russia understands that who the children of Israel are. He's made this very clear, Vladimir Putin. He also understands the importance of the Bible and the Quran. Now, I want y'all to pay attention because a lot of people don't know that they're so ignorant. Satan looks to deceive. And so he's placed one people here and said another people here and said, hey, these people don't like you and these people don't like you. These people believe in this, but these people believe in this. So let me paint this picture for our Muslim brothers and sisters, okay, who are watching. When you read the entire Quran, there's no hadith in there. Why? Because the hadith was created 100 years after the death of Muhammad. The Quran states that everyone was waiting for Christ. The Quran also states that those who lived in the Middle Eastern countries, Saudis, Omanis, Emiratis, so forth and so forth, that they are the biggest hypocrites of God, aka the Ishmaelites, aka the same people who looked to kill Muhammad when he told them, stop sinning. Okay. Now in the Hadiths, it says that there is someone called Mahdi, and Christ will come behind him in the return. In the Quran, Muhammad said that Christ is the only Messiah coming back. So now you have all the Muslims sticking to the Hadiths, something that Muhammad didn't even write. And Christians are too simple-minded, let alone to read their own Bible, to read and see, let me see this research here. What's going on here? And so in the Quran, it says to follow the Torah, that God gave the Torah, to follow Christ and his Gospels. Now, some things were changed. So, for example, for you Christians out there and for you Muslims out there, hey, jihad, I have proof of this for a later lesson. Jihad was not a physical fighting, it was spiritual fighting. Muhammad was teaching people to spiritually fight. But I'm aware that they took out the true essence of jihad because the jihad was what Christ was saying, I have called you to be soldiers, now fight in this spiritual war against good and evil. Jihad was not about going to kill another human being because they did or did not want to serve the Most High. So now you have all the Muslims out there believing in something that they haven't even read. Boy. And then you have the Christians out there who will do everything that Christ said not to do while saying they love Christ and, boasting, just like it says in Romans. Oh, they're making a boasting of the law, yet they do absolutely nothing that Christ said to do. And when I say they do nothing that Christ says to do, nothing properly. With that being said, they have split both sides. And when you split both sides, they say, my goodness. Because in the Quran, it talks about the resurrection. It talks about having yourself ready for the day of judgment and ready for the return of Christ. The Bible maybe touches a little bit about resurrection, but does emphasize the return of the children of Israel and the return of Christ. So now you have people fighting on both sides. And when I said months ago, if not a year ago, I said you were going to have to choose a side, I was referring to truth. You have to understand what truth is. Truth is not something that you claim to be true. Truth is what is there, right? Truth is what is there, what has been established, and what confirms the Bible, what confirms Christ. Wow. But anywho, all of this was to remove those who oppose to the Khazars who are acting like they are someone that they're not. Now, this is the time. And notice how the man was talking about people were getting all jubilant people, and then the female was kept saying, we have gotten out of 50 girl, but like 20 some years old, saying we got out of 50 years of darkness. Pay attention. It's the time of the Jubilee. Are you paying attention? It's the time of the Jubilee. Are you paying attention? You have, and I'm going to do another lesson in a further week about, and this was my actual lesson, actually, before they even put it out, about the Pope opening 5 portals. But I told you about 2 months in advance that I was going to do a lesson called Through the Gates of Hell, and that's exactly what it was referring to. As you can see, the doors opening from hell. When I tell you discernment is most needed in these times, and I told you this before, that discernment is the most important thing, but your discernment is determined by your knowledge and your wisdom. Listen here. So, let's start. The name Syria is Romanized. All right. Initially, in the Bible, we know it to be Assur, the land of Assur. Through here, right? Sumerian. Okay. That's what we know. Now, here, they'll tell you that it is also parts of Iraq. So, we have something very interesting. It says, Sor is the name of the city of the land ruled by the city and of the tutelary deity from which the natives took their name, as did the entire nation of Assyria, which encompassed, which is today, northern Iraq, northeastern Syria, and southeast Turkey. Today, the Assyrians are still found through the Middle East, particularly in Iraq, Iran, Syria, Turkey, and the diaspora of the Western world. Something just is really strange here, right? Now, Syria, you see, the origin, all right? It says in the Roman Empire, the terms Syria and Assyria came to be used as names for distinct geographical regions. Syria in the Roman period referred to the region of Syria, the western Levant, while Assyria was the part of the Parthian Empire, which is a part of Iran, Empire, and the Sassanian Empire only very briefly came under Roman control. So back then, it was considered Assyria, and Syria was what? It was referred to as the same exact place. Now, to do some research, and I don't want to get too much, in my lands of salvation, Assyria portion, I will be end up going over this over again. But the land Syria in the Bible is Aram. Okay. That's where short from Armenians, Aram, you understand. Now, they say, it was known as the Amorites and blah, 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 blah. Okay? And why I say blah, blah, blah? If you didn't know biblically, I think it was Rebecca and the foremothers, a lot of the matriarchs, they hailed from Syria. Okay? The foremothers. But now, here's the thing, and a lot of my brothers and sisters of the Hebrew stock, you say, oh, well, you said Hebrew's not important. Well, if you read numerous texts, everyone will sit there and tell you, every single one will sit there and tell you, one, it's not used. Two, the people have intertwined the pro-Canaanite language Hebrew with Yiddish. It's dang near almost identical. Okay, it's their language. It's not real. Okay. Anywho, and then you want to understand how it's not real. How come every single artifact has their Hebrew on it? It's kind of weird, right? But Aramaic was totally different. Anywho, so you can do your research on this. The language of Christ was Aramaic, not that proto-Canaanite, Yiddish Hebrew. So it was Aramaic. Now, from Aramaic, then stemmed out Hebrew. And from Hebrew, then stemmed out Arabi, which is Arabic. They replaced the original Hebrew with Yiddish, which is why the ancient Hebrew ties in to the same exact thing as Yiddish. So you must go back to what? Aramaic, and then skip over that trash they call Yiddish, and then go to the Arabic or the Arabi. Now, what you're going to find is that it means the land of Shem. Right? Yeah, the land of Shem. You can see they give their own distinctions. And you heard them say Shem, Al Shem, Al Shem. It's the people. Okay, they understand they're Semites, they're Semitic people, and it was the land of the Lord's heaven. Now, they had Mount Hermon there, which we understand is not the mountain we want to be at, but hey, is that why the Israelis have now taken over that land? That was the first target. Well, I wonder why. Because there were some entities who were using jinn in Arabic, that's an Arabic term for demons or spirits. They were using demons in their warfare. So they said, oh, you're using those now, huh? So if we conquer the land where the fallen came from, do our little kabad ceremonies, which you can look it up, they already have begun, it will invoke. So you're wondering, right, why all these so-called UFOs and things is happening all over the world, more so particularly the United States, right? Well, and a lot of people are going to put this off as Project Bluebeam. And I'm going to go into a further lesson at this another time, but all of this comes into play. So, while you think it's Project Bluebeam, they are invoking demons, okay? And so you think it's not real, all right? You ready? You think it's not real, but you think it's not real because you have never seen it, and they will tell you that, hey, we're going to place this psyop out here called Project Bluebeam, because when Gog and Magog and the army of the devil comes out, you're not going to believe it, you foolish beings. They got them. They got all the people. It's a psyop. It's psychological warfare. Oh, shoot. Hate it. But that's for another time, right? It's psychological warfare. Because if it wasn't, you remember the United States when that family saw this being at the Miami Mall? Well, where is that family now? And then why all of a sudden are they releasing this information about extraterrestrials and all of these things? Yes, they're going to try and stage something over here, over there. But remember, when they create a problem, they try and give a solution as well. But I have a video that the Holy Spirit guided me to just the other day, and I was like, Holy Spirit, Most High, you know I don't watch people's videos on YouTube, but this particular one popped up, and he said it was a Jewish rabbi. And I'm going to share it in a different lesson soon, very soon, not in this lesson. But he said, it's time for people to understand that the spiritual awakening is here. The spiritual revolution, those were his specific words, spiritual revolution. And a lot of people aren't ready for this. Now, if you don't understand the Bible, a demon on the earth will look like Project Bluebeam. If you don't understand CERN and how they have removed the firmament, everything looks like Project Bluebeam to you. But when you do understand the Bible, you understand that Satan has an army. All of this is connected. We saw in Iraq, they wanted the Stargates. That's my CERN lessons. In Syria, they want to stop. They want to stop the pathway for the Most High returning his people. This is what this lesson is all about. So let's begin. How do we know this? Let's start with Isaiah 37. We're going to go with Isaiah 37. One second. Now, here's a trick here. I did read about 3 different Bibles. Now, this one was different here. Okay. I want to share it with everyone. The translation was different, but I'm going to share with you anyway. Okay. And he sent Eliakim, who was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and the elders, the priests, covered with sackcloth, Isaiah, and unto Isaiah the son of Amoz. They said unto him, Thus saith Hezekiah, this day is a day of trouble, rebuke blasphemy, for the children are come to the birth, and there is no strength to bring them forth. Now, there's going to be a lot going on here, but let's keep going. It may be the Lord, thy God, will hear the words of Rabshakeh, whom the king of Assyria, which is Syria, so Syria and Iraq region, his master has sent to reproach the living God, and will reprove the words which the Lord thy God hath heard. Wherefore lift up thy prayer for the remnant that is left. And the servant of the king Hezekiah came to Isaiah, and Isaiah said unto him, Thus shall ye say unto your master, Thus saith the Lord, Be not afraid of the words that thou hast heard, wherewith the servants of the king of Syria have blasphemed me. Behold, I will send a blast upon him, and he shall hear a rumor and return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. Kind of interesting, huh? How he fled. Anywho. So Rabshakeh returned and found the king of Assyria warring against Libnah. You may say, who is Libnah? That is who you think it is. That is, if I'm not mistaken, it's Lebanon. Let me find that. Yes, it's Lebanon because it's the whiteness. Okay, so there was a portion there taken. Okay. For he heard that he was departed from Lachish. And he heard say concerning Tirhakah, king of Ethiopia, he is come forth to make war with thee. And when he heard it, he sent messengers to Hezekiah. Thus shall you speak to Hezekiah, king of Judah, saying, let not thy God, in whom thy trust is, deceive thee, saying, Jerusalem shall not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Behold, thou hast heard that what the kings of Assyria had done to all lands by destroying them utterly, and shalt thou be delivered? Have the gods of the nations delivered them, which my fathers have destroyed, as Gozan and Haran and Hesphiah, and the children of Eden, which were in Telassar? Where is the king of Hamath, and the king of Arphad, and the king of the city of Shapharim, and Hena and Ivah? Now, I would like you to pay close attention here, as it references the children of Eden. It also references that there was history about overthrowing all of the Most High's land. Now, what I have noticed when reading these scriptures, all of these scriptures, when we see Ecclesiastes 1, 9, and 10, it says, there's no new thing under the sun. You have to understand that if it happens, then the Most High is making it happen kind of in the same sense that it happened before for some things, unless the Most High says he changes it. So that way we can understand from reading the scripture. It was Satan and his beings around the world that plotted against those who would love the Most High, like you and me, to change the scriptures around so they would be confusing to us. Hence, the word Satan is the author of confusion. Hence, in the end of the scriptures, it says, he who adds or takes away from these scriptures will lose his portion and will be taken out of the book of life. Right? So we are to learn from these things. It's very important. Hezekiah received the letter from the hand of the messengers and read it. Hezekiah went up to the house of the Lord and spread it before him. The Lord. And Hezekiah prayed unto the Lord, saying, O Lord, God of Israel, that dwellest between the cherubims, thou art the God, even thou alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth. Thou hast made heaven and earth. Incline thine ear, O Lord, and hear. Open thine eyes, O Lord, and see, and hear all the words of Sennacherib, which have sent to reproach the living God. This is a big player, by the way, in the Bible. Very, very big person. Of a truth, Lord, kings of Assyria have laid waste all nations and their countries, and have cast their gods into the fire, for they were no gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone. Therefore they have destroyed them. Now therefore, our Lord, our God, save us from his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that thou art the Lord, even thou only. Now, what is happening here with Assad being in reign of of what we would call Syria. So every ruler has evil to them. There is no perfect person, okay? There are some nations that will side with the Most High and his people, and there are some that's not. But what I can tell you is that with this information and him having this platform, the Most High used him to do such. It's very few people who have done this. It's very few people who have done this. And when they have done this, they have been ostracized or taken out of the media. Even people who were warning others, like this man here. So this was in the 90s. If I'm not mistaken, or the 80s. If you don't know, this was the old Palestinian leader, by the way. He's talking about the Israeli coin.
هذه العملة عملة حديثة جدا خلفها في الشمعدان.
Now this was back in the 80s and 90s. They was talking about the map of Greater Israel. Once again, I'm calling up to the front, Gen X, baby boomers. I mean, what exactly were we doing? But anyhow, this was already talked about for years. So if anyone ever wondered if this is it, they're carrying it out now. Pay attention.
الإسرائيلي تحت الشمعدان في إسرائيل الكبرى سيناء كل لبنان
Entirely Lebanon, entirely Jordan, half of Syria, 3/4 of Iraq.
كل الأردن ثلثين سوريا ثلاث أرباع العراق.
Now look at that coin now. Look a little familiar.
المملكة العربية السعودية حتى المدينة وخيبر. هذه إسرائيل، هذا مهم جدا. أنا عارف. شافوها العرب هذه الخريطة.
Come on now. The Most High is asking his people all over the world, Jews and Gentiles, to pay attention. You are in it. You are living the prophecy as you wake up, as you go to work, as you eat your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, as you work out, as you watch Netflix or Hulu, as you watch YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, as you even go to sleep. Prophecy is still occurring. So we are there. You need to know. Then Isaiah the son of Amos sent unto Hezekiah, saying, Thus said the Lord God of Israel, whereas thou hast prayed to me against Sennacherib, king of Assyria. This is the word which the Lord hath spoken concerning him. The virgin, the daughter of Zion, hath despised thee, and laughed thee to scorn. The daughter of Jerusalem hath shaken her head at thee. Whom hast thou reproached and blasphemed? And against whom thou hast exalted thy voice and lifted up thine eyes on high, even the Holy One of Israel. By thy servants hast thou reproached the Lord, and hast said, By the multitude of my chariots I am come up to the heights of the mountains, to the sides of Lebanon. I will cut down the tall cedars thereof, the choice fir trees thereof. I will enter into the height of his border in the forest of Carmel. Is this sounding familiar? Yeah, yeah. I mean, they doing this, right? Okay. I have digged and drunk water, and with the sole of my feet I dried up all the rivers of the besieged places. Wait, what? I've dried up all the rivers of the besieged places, paying attention to, just like the prophecy said, when that Euphrates is dried up, the war from the east begins. China making that highway not only for war, not only and the spiritual is being made for people to go into the highway of Assyria, which the Bible speaks of. And we'll get into that in a later portion of these scriptures. But really, that highway is for war, to stop. So I want you to pay attention. Right now, China is on the side of Russia. Russia is harboring Assad. Assad understands who the children of Israel are. Russia understands who the children of Israel. Iran understands who the children. So all the boogeymen in the world seem to understand who the children of Israel are. There has to be war to cleanse the whole thing. It's been tainted. Okay? But imagine, like, right, the children of Israel calling America Eden, and you deserve to be slapped. Most High, I'm a sinner. I apologize, but they deserve to get a good slap in the back of the nugget. What? You got a literal land being, people are perishing. The Most High is saying, I'm clearing out this whole region except for a remnant of people who are of your stock and who love you, who will accept you as my people, and you want to. That's why I said I'm finished trying to tell people, you do as you wish. Hast thou not heard long ago how I have done it, of ancient times that I have formed it? Now have I brought it to pass, and thou shouldest be laid to waste defenced cities in ruinous heaps. Now pay attention now. The Most High said, didn't you see what I did before? Watch what I do again. Therefore their inhabitants were of small power, and they were dismayed and confounded. They were as the grass of the field, and as a green herb, as the grass on the housetops, and as corn blasted before it grown up. It be grown up. But I know thy abode, and thy going out, and thy coming in, thy rage against me, because thy ragest against me, and thy tumult is come up into my ears. Therefore will I put my hook in thy nose, my bridle in thy lips, and I will turn thee back by the way which thou camest. This shall be a sign unto thee. This shall be a sign unto thee. Ye shall eat this year as groweth of itself, and the second year which springeth out of the same, and in the third year sow ye and reap and plant vineyards and eat the fruit thereof. And the remnant that is escaped of the house of Judah shall again take root downward and bear fruit upward. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of Mount Zion, the zeal of the Lord of hosts shall do this. Now, wait a minute. So something is going on here where the Most High said, you have to understand that when Syria is a big part, I am going to do something very, very unique here. I am going to do something very, very unique here. I just don't know if you're paying attention. It says, thou hast heard what the kings of Assyria had done to all the lands by destroying them utterly. Now, maybe this was in the past. Okay, we understand there was terrible rule back then. But right now, we see the Japhetic children, the Europeans destroying everything. And they'll slap the term oil, and the Ishmaelites too. They'll slap the term oil, peace, prosperity, and democracy on it just to cover up their lie. Listen here. Listen here. Okay. Listen here. Something major is coming. So, for the simple fact that Bashar al-Assad, his name is Lion, which is a representation of Judah, it shall be a sign, okay? And there were 3 years of some kind of crazy behaviors. Now, the signs were with what? The signs were with food. Food, things that grow itself, staying away from processed food. Second year, springeth from the same. So there was 3 years to get thy body in shape for something. Anyone paying attention? What was the point? You were to get your body in shape to escape danger. No. Never mind, I'll just keep going. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with the shields, nor cast a bank against it. By the way that he came, by the same shall he return, and shall not come into this city, saith the Lord. Now, I'm almost certain they didn't divided the entire land. Americans on the east, Israelis in the west, Al-Qaeda and ISIS and different mercenary groups in the central and southern parts, and then you have Turkey in the north. They're destroying this place. It says, for I will defend this city to save it for mine own sake, for my servant David's sake. That meaning the remnant of Judah, which is David's stock, Judah. Then the angel of the Lord went forth and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. When they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went and returned and dwelt in Nineveh, which is today Mosul in Iraq. And it came to pass, as he was worshiping in the house of Nisrod, his god, that Adremelech and Sherezer his son smote him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Armenia. And Ashardon his son reigned in his stead. So remember, the Bible talks about in the book of Joel, the valley of decision. Everyone in the valley of decision right now, all these nations, I'm telling you, the valley of decision is just this whole region. Obviously, it starts at, Jerusalem, but it is the whole region. The whole region is going to go to war. People sitting up there thinking that they was going to stop with Gaza. The next thing you know, not only are they bombing Gaza, they bombing Lebanon. And now, not only did they sign a ceasefire, and they're still continuing with Lebanon, they're going into Syria. I mean, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop, brothers and sisters. And that, I'm sorry, it may scare a lot of people, but it should. It should. And that should be a marker as to how quickly you and I move, because guess what? I mean, who has time to sit there and play around? Who has time to sit there and think like, you know, I mean, every day it's natural that the body gets rest and we take a rest and sleep, but at the same time, something else is happening, and something else is happening, and something else is happening. This is Joel 3. This is Joel 3. It says, "Put ye the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow their wickedness, for their wickedness is great." Obviously, this is referring to the valley of decision. Now, here's my precept. Revelations. Revelations 14. Starting at 14, it reads, "And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, Thrust in thy sickle, reap, for the time is come for thee to reap. The harvest of the earth is ripe." Now, whoa. You're like, Minister, wait, hold on. Why are you talking about the harvest? Why? Why are you talking about the sickle to reap? I would love to now bring to you Operation Timber Sycamore. Operation Timber Sycamore was classified weapons supply and training program run by the United States Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and the United Kingdom, and some Arab intelligence services, including Saudi Arabia. The aim of the program was to remove the lion Bashar al-Assad from power, launched in 2012 or 2013, but conspired in 2011. It supplied money, weaponry, and training to Syrian opposition fighters, also known as revolutionaries, fighting Syrian government forces in the Syrian civil war. It's not real. So instead of sending their soldiers, they're just training people who they know hate government. You know, in the United States and UK and all those places, that would be called treason, but whatever. According to the U.S. officials, the program was run by the CIA's Special Activity Division and has trained thousands of rebels. President Barack Obama secretly authorized the CIA to begin arming Syria's embattled rebels in 2013. The program became public knowledge in mid-2016. Wow. One consequence of the program has been a flood of U.S. weapons, including assault rifles, mortars, rocket-propelled grenades in the Middle East black market. Critics of the program within the Obama administration viewed it as ineffective and expensive and raised concerns about seizure of weaponry by Islamist groups and about Timber Sycamore-backed rebels fighting alongside Al-Qaeda affiliate al-Nusra Front and its allies. In July 2017, U.S. officials stated Timber Sycamore would be phased out, with funds possibly redirected to fight the Islamic State or to offering rebel forces defense capabilities. Well, well, well. Let's look at the countries involved, shall we? Executed by none other than first the United States. Okay. The UK's Secret Service. Jordan. Those people who are watching their own people perish. Another form of Jordan, Saudi Arabia. Well, well, well. And then you have Qatar. Well, this is just getting interesting. Psalms 83 never seemed so clear to me. Right? Wow. So, you want to know how much they hate these people, right? In Syria. So, Lebanon blocked Syrians from coming, and the Turkish blocked Syrians from coming. In that video of the WEON, they shared that they were coming back. They lied. They were leaving. Foolish people. They're sitting up there lying to people, telling them, yeah, they're going back to. So you mean to tell me if people who fled from Afghanistan the first time of the war, and then they watched the Taliban and Al-Qaeda take over their government, you mean to tell me that they would be running back? Are we that stupid? No, 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 no. The powers that be, Satan and his children, think we're stupid. We wouldn't go running back. Now, how does this go with harvest? So we understand timber is wood. Yeah? Timber is wood. It's cutting wood. Timber, cutting it. Hmm. Now let it sit and marinate. All right, good. Now, Operation what? Timber Sycamore. And sycamore is nothing but your mulberry leaf fig tree. That's right, fig and mulberry. Now, if anyone has read the books of remembrance, you understand the word mulberry means to weep. Now, with prophecy, you also understand that fig trees, you gotta take them off before they go bad. I mean, we did learn in scripture there's a prophecy with the fig tree, and it's not producing enough fruit. Cut it, right? Okay, you following now. Good. So, the time, Operation Timber Sycamore supposedly was accomplished. No more lion in the way, right? Let's keep reading. Getting out the fig trees, right? Getting out the figs. Let's cut them all down. And he that sat on the cloud thrust into the sickle of the earth, and the earth was reaped. And another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar with which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, Thrust in thy sharp sickle, and gather the cluster of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. That means fruits. And the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into a great winepress of the wrath of God, and the winepress was trodden without the city. Blood came out of the winepress, and even unto the horse's bridle, by the space of 1,600 furlongs. Now, the emphasis here is the winepress was trodden without a city, which means it doesn't matter where you are. He's coming to collect those fruits. He's coming to see if anyone is producing fruits or has fruits, your talents, and if you haven't used them, you're going to be affected by the things to come. Operation Timber Sycamore. Cut down the wood. It's time to harvest. Take what's good, throw out what's bad. Strengthen what remains, or you will suffer. Jeremiah. Let's get a little further into Syria, shall we? Jeremiah 49, or excuse me, 49. And we're going 23 to 27. It reads, Concerning Damascus, Hamath is confounded in a parphod, or arpod, and they also use H in there as well, but for the sake, arpod, for they have heard evil tidings. They are faint-hearted. There is sorrow on the sea. And what did they do? Israel bombed the entire seaboard of Syria. What was there? All their navy. They have no way to protect themselves. There is sorrow on the sea, it cannot be quiet. Damascus is feeble, and turneth herself to flee. And fear hath seized on her, and anguish and sorrows have taken her as a woman in travail. How is the city of praise not left in the city of my joy? Therefore her young men shall fall in her streets, and all the men of war shall be cut off. Now we saw this years ago. Why is it happening now? Again. It's because of that Chinese connection that the Most High is placing on them to make that, so that he can bring his people, to give them a pathway to come home from that part of the world. And don't worry about those in the West, in the Western Hemisphere, the children of Israel. He's going to make a way for you too. Therefore, her young men shall fall in her streets, and all the men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith the Lord of hosts. And I will kindle a fire in the wall of Damascus, and I shall consume the palaces of Ben-Hadad. Concerning Kedar, and if you didn't know, Kedar was a portion of Saudi Arabia. It's a northern portion of Saudi Arabia. And concerning the kingdom of Hazor, which Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon shall smite, thus saith the Lord, arise ye, go up to Kedar, and spoil the men of the east. Now, a lot of people get thrown off because you're supposed to understand who is in the role of Nebuchadnezzar today. Obviously, Nebuchadnezzar is not alive. Their tents and their flocks shall they take away. They shall take to themselves their curtains and all their veils and their camels. They shall cry unto them, fear is on every side. Flee, get you far off, dwell deep, O ye inhabitants of Hazor, saith the Lord. For Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, hath taken counsel against you and hath conceived a purpose against you. Now, when this is saying dwell deep, it means go further south into Saudi or those certain areas. Arise, get you up unto the wealthy nation that dwelleth without care, saith the Lord, which hath neither gates nor bars, which dwelleth alone. Their camels shall be a booty, and their multitude of their cattle a spoil. I will scatter into all winds them that are in the utmost corners, and I will bring their calamity from all sides thereof, saith the Lord. I actually went a little further, but I don't want to go too far. The emphasis was Damascus, right? So Damascus is going to get touched. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And as we get closer to the end, as more spiritual things start to happen, as the time is shortening, because we all can see the time is shortening. I mean, look at the reasons, brothers and sisters, why it has to shorten. Now, outside of people being Shem, Ham, or Japheth, or children of Israel, or Gentile, people are dying. People think about it. The United States went to war on a false statement that people who were Muslims, people who wore turbans, people who wore shamas and kafayas, that they were terrorists. And then they're acknowledging that these people are government officials 20 years later, 30 years later. And then they're still killing people. It's to the point where the terrorists are now government officials, but everywhere. Now, the difference between a European official and a Taliban official, one wears traditional clothes, one wears a suit and tie. The Taliban ain't trying to hide nothing. People in the suits and ties are. That's the problem. But it's all coming out. It's all coming out. It's all coming out. Isaiah 17 reads, the burden of Damascus. Behold, Damascus taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. The cities of Aurora are forsaken. Shall be for flocks which shall lie down, and none shall make them afraid. Now, I want you to pay attention. It's saying a city shall be for flocks. So there's going to be danger, but it's also being used also for another purpose. The fortress also shall cease from Ephraim, and the kingdom from Damascus, and the remnant of Syria. They shall be as the glory of the children of Israel, saith the Lord of hosts. Now, I want you to understand. And so this is kind of trickery, right? This word cease is Shabbath, repose, that is desist from exertion, and then it says make to rest. The fortress also shall make to rest from Ephraim, and the kingdom of Damascus, and the remnant of Syria. They shall be as glory for the children of Israel. Now, that means that it's going to be destroyed for everyone's sake, not just for one set of people. It reads, "In that day it shall come to pass that the glory of Jacob shall be made thin, and the fatness of his flesh shall wax lean." This means we're starting to see, once again, that spiritual shift. Now, you sitting there saying, "Oh, Jacob shall be waxed thin." If you're looking at the people who are in the geographical land and you're seeing that, they're killing people, they're spitting on Ethiopian children and all kinds of stuff, and you gotta be a sick individual to really tie this into those individuals. You got to. You got to be a sick individual. Because if I believed that these were God's people, I would have been like, these are the people I'm supposed to follow. Forget. I'm good. I'm good. That's why it's important to read. That's why it's important to read. Imagine how many people will sit there and continue to see this and be like, man, you know, okay, oh, they were, and here was the first thing, right, with Gaza, with Haza. They said, oh, they're doing things to us in our own land. Okay, maybe that would have slid for a little bit, right? And, whatever. But then when you went into Lebanon, oh, well, there was terrorists. There was terrorists there, right? Why are you going to Syria? Oh, well, the terrorists go here. And when they go to Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Iraq and Egypt and Ethiopia, what's going to happen then? You see, it has to be some point of, and this is a big sin in the entire world, accountability. Wait, why is no one holding these people accountable? Why is it that the people who are holding called terrorists? Kind of strange, isn't it? Now, it shall be as when the harvestman gathereth the corn and reapeth the ears with his arm, and it shall be as he that gathereth ears in the valley of Rephaim. Yet gleaning grapes shall be left in it as a shaking of an olive tree. Now we understand that olive tree is the children of Israel. 2 or 3 berries in the top of the utmost bough, 4 or 5 in the utmost fruitful branches thereof, saith the Lord God. So if anyone is looking for this great flux of the children of Israel, it ain't happening. I'm going to say this again. If anyone is looking for a great flux by the thousands, because I know United States and the UK and Central South America, they got the Israelite groups going all by the numbers and the hundreds and the thousands. You see, the Most High says, well, there's going to be a few left. There's only going to be 2, 3, 4 here or there, maybe 10, maybe 20. It ain't going to be a lot. The Most High is getting ready to shake them all. The whole world. This is with the city without borders, without walls. So what's happening in Damascus, what's happening in Israel, the Most High is not just shaking up one place. It's a symbology of the entire world being shooken. Wow. Wow. Now it says that some of the children of Israel are going to be made thin and going to have a good time and they'll be all right. Some of the children of Ephraim, they're going to rest, right? Because there are some children of Israel and Syria today. That's true. But this is referring to worldwide as well. So what happens to one will happen to all. Now, it reads, I'll read again. Yet gleaning grapes shall be left in it as a shaking of an olive tree, 2 or 3 berries in the top of the uppermost bough, 4 or 5 in the outmost fruitful branches thereof, saith the Lord. Remember that the Gentiles were told not to boast against the branches, which means the branches are the children of, never mind, but hey, never mind. Oh, it's going to be a shaking up. I told y'all the time would come. I told you, smite the shepherd, scatter the sheep. I told you. And so many people are looking for hundreds of people in a church. What exactly are you talking about? Isaiah 11:11 is for the Most High to have the angels bring the people back, and then the orders will be structured. But the order is already being structured because the men of the Most High know who they are already. People already know. Some people already know who they are. But it wouldn't be this big old ordeal like, oh, I'm going to, write a census and we have 500 people here and we have 200 there and we got 125 over there. No, Most High about to shake it up, baby. He's about to shake stuff up. At that day shall a man look to his Maker, and his eyes shall have respect to the Holy One of Israel. And he shall not look to the altars, the work of his hands, neither shall respect that which his fingers have made, neither the groves or the images. That means our jobs, our regular day jobs. And so when I watched this video, what was scary about this video was he's saying you had to leave the mindset of doing things in the physical, because if you can't recognize that everything is spiritual and that you have no works in the spiritual, you're not going to make what's about to come in 2025. Those were his exact words in the video. And this is exactly what it's saying, because when your money is gone, you are not going to work. You're going to go in fight or flight mode. Now, you should have been in flight mode already, because this is a time of prophecy, and you should have been getting right with the Most High from the beginning. So, for all those who thought that they would get in flight mode before serving the Most High, no, you're wrong. You're going to be in fight mode because you didn't do anything to be in flight mode. You understand? This is why I emphasize building a relationship with the Most High before. Because in 2025, 2026, you're not going to hear me say it, because it's going to already have been needed. And if you don't have it, you're lacking. Hurry up. Most High going to shake it up. In that day shall his strong cities be as a forsaken bow in the uppermost branch, which they left because the children of Israel, and there shall be desolation. So understand that these lands are being destroyed for the children of Israel, so that no one wants them. We'll go back into our land. He said it would be a ruinous heap. Because thou hast forgotten thy God, the God of thy salvation, and hast not been mindful of the rock of thy strength, therefore shalt thou plant pleasant plants, and shalt set it in strange slips. Now this is the one talking. This is the Most High talking to the children of Israel who reside in Syria. So, oh, you didn't want to listen to me? You want to do all kinds of things? You want to serve the wrong God? You want to sit there and look what it says. Thou hast not been mindful of the rock of thy strength. Who is the rock? Christ is the rock. So now a land that was predominantly biblical has turned to a Christ-hating, what the world would call Christ-hating Islam. Because in Islam, they just want to, oh no, all these fake Pharisaic, Sadducees, scribe, imams, all they tell you is that is just a man. But in the same exact book that you read, it says Christ is the Al-Masih, which is the Messiah. So obviously he's not just a man. He's more than a man. He's a savior. And because you forgot that, now the Most High is saying, well, let me show you something. Now I get it. A lot of people in the world, is converting to Islam. I understand for some reason. Oh, they want to be tied to discipline, or they want to be tied to something that's away from a certain culture or a certain ethnicity. Not realizing that if you read the Quran properly, it would take you right back to the Bible, because it says to read the book of Psalms, and it says to read the books of Moses, and it says to read the gospel of Christ. And the gospel is the entire New Testament. But because they have forsaken that, and all they do is call on the 100 names of God, just like the Christians say there's 100 names, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah this, Jehovah that. They do the same exact thing. All they do is pray 5 times a day and think that's going to be good. Maybe give a little zakat here and there. They do nothing else that the Most High says, and then what? Most High says, you forgot me. You call, and think about this. You could see how the hadith is wrong. You say singing is haram, but yet your cultures will sing and dance with swords. But then, in the same token, it is illegal for someone to sing, yet who gave them that voice? God. So you've forgotten about the Most High. You've forgotten about the Most High. You have discipline and prayer. Great. But you've forgotten about the Most High. You've forgotten about the Messiah. Think about it. That day, in the day shalt thou make thy plant grow, and in the morning shalt thou make thy seed to flourish, but the harvest shall be a heap in the day of grief and of desperate sorrow. Wait, hold on, bring it back. The harvest shall be a heap in the day of grief and of desperate sorrow. So the harvest that was prophesied, Book of Joel, Revelations, was going to be in a time of grief and desperate sorrow. Come on now. Come on. Yeah. Most High would choose with the bread of affliction and adversity of water. He said this before. Woe to the multitude of many people which make a noise like the noise of the seas, and to the rushing of nations that make a rushing like the rushing of mighty waters. The nation shall rush like the rushing of many waters, but God shall rebuke them, and they shall flee far off, and shall be chased as the chaff of the mountains before the wind, and like a rolling thing before the whirlwind. Behold, an evening tide trouble, and before the morning he is not. This is the portion of them that spoil us, and the lot of them that rob us. Showing you that there is destruction. Isn't it a little strange, right? How the Most High brought all these different people to Syria. He didn't bring all the people to Gaza or Lebanon. He brought them they was at the table, but now you got rebel groups, China, Saudi players, Qatar. We got all these outside hidden sources all coming to the table for Syria. Hmm. Oh, it's about to go down. It's about to go down, brothers and sisters. Just watch. Amos 1. This is Amos 1, 3 through. It reads, Hear the word of the Lord. Hear the word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, You only have I known of all thy families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. Can two walk together except they be agreed? Will a lion and the roar in the forest when he hath no prey? Will a young lion cry out of his den if he hath taken nothing? Can a bird fall in a snare upon the earth where no gin is for him? Shall one take up a snare from the earth and hath taken nothing at all? Shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? Now, for me, I sit there and think, and say, the Lord hath not done it. Surely the Lord will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret to his servants, the prophets. Now, let's go back, shall we? Let's go back to this video and observe Trump. So, let's see. First, we see the word time. We see the words New York Stock Exchange, which is NYC opening bell person of the year. And then you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people and 2 posters, which makes 10, equating to 10 tribes. But anyway, so how do I know this, right? Let's look at this word time, right? Time. Time is limited space of time, okay? Temporal duration, time. Bell, to sound, to roar. To roar. Are you getting it yet? Bellow. To roar. Let's go back to that scripture again. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city? Well, he did ring the bell, right? But the thing is, who rung the bell? Now, a bell is usually to announce a celebration. However, pay attention, as it is also used for a warning. So, a bell was rung, a roar, for a warning. And the time, which is a limited amount of time, Henceforth in the United States it is winter there. Henceforth Christ said, let your flight not be in the winter anywhere because of tribulation. And henceforth they started this a month before Trump gets back into this office. Henceforth, his rhetoric has also been, oh, we got to take out these people, we got to deport people, we got to do. Okay. It's kind of strange. Do you not think it's a message to those who are paying attention to the Most High? It's a message. Now, and the last one, you see this word exchange. The act of reciprocal giving and receiving. Now, if I didn't know any better, I would have thought that's the harvest. Let me see what you have done for me so I can take you in safety. An act of giving and receiving. What is the Most High receiving from you, and what have you gave to him? This is the time where the Most High said, hey, you running out here of time to give me things. I cannot sit here and wait for you. I'm tired of this sin. I have those who are waiting in the bosom. They're tired. I have my angels tired. I have the angels of presence tired. My son Christ, he's tired. Holy Spirit's tired, grieved all the time. I'm tired of waiting for you. Oh, okay. So the Most High said, I need to shake it up. I need to shake it up one last time before the whole beat system gets implemented and everything, right? I mean, because look, all right, let's just say, excuse me, let's play the game, right? Let's say if the United States does implement the mark of the beast, right? And it's kind of strange because you see, Elon Musk is in your White House with your president. Mr. AI himself, Mr. Hate God himself, Mr. Let's get clean energy, but then Donald Trump says, let's start fracking and get oil again. There's only one agenda here. Now, this is my belief. I believe that Babylon is the testing grounds for the entire world. Notice how you get food from America, you'll never, ever get the same ingredients in the food anywhere else in the world. America is the testing ground for the rest of the world. So they say, okay, well, we'll let you put it out first to your people. And then when we see what it does, we'll decide if we want to put it into our people. America is a testing ground. That's why most countries either are a republic state or a democratic state, but the United States is not either. It's just the United States. You notice that? Never mind. Continuing, it says, the lion hath roared, who will not fear? The Lord God has spoken, who can but prophesy? Publish in the palaces at Ashdod, in the places of the land of Egypt, to say, assemble yourselves upon the mountains of Samaria, which is in the land of Syria, by the way, and behold the great tumults in the midst thereof, and the oppressed in the midst thereof. Now it's just going to get downright and ugly. For they know not to do right, saith the Lord, who store up violence and robbery in their palaces. Okay. Now, when it says a palace, it means in their height. So when they get positions of power, these individuals are barbarians. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, an adversary there shall be even round about the land, from the east the United States, Turkey from the north, ISIS and Al Qaeda in the central and southern parts, and then Israel, so called, from the west. Is it not surrounded yet? And he shall bring down the strength from thee, and the palaces shall be spoiled. Thus saith the Lord, as a shepherd taketh out of the mouth of the lion 2 legs, or a piece of an ear, so shall the children of Israel be taken out that dwell in Samaria, in the corner of the bed, and in Damascus in the couch. Have mercy. It's going to get ugly. Hear ye and testify in the house of Jacob, saith the Lord God of hosts, that in the day that I shall visit the transgressions of Israel, upon him will I also visit the altars of Bethel, and the horns of the altar shall be cut off and fall to the ground. I will smite the winter house with the summer house, and the houses of ivory shall perish, and the great houses shall have an end with the Lord. Now, it's kind of interesting where he says, I will smite the winter with the summer. Now, what's known in the summertime? Anyone know? Work with me. Come on. You see, it means harvest. He's going to burn up everything. Yeah, there you go. There you go. The more you know. Winter means what? Crop. Winter means what? Crop. Winter means what? Gathering crop. Gathering crop. Hey, guess what? The Most High is saying, this winter, I'm gathering. What do you have for me? Now, here's the thing. Some of you think this is just the children of Israel, or should I say in Syria. So now, for all the children of Israel, he's going to shake up the tree. And he said, well, I testified to the entire house of Jacob. It's all 12 tribes. He said, I shall visit the transgressions of Israel. Now, I told you there was a jubilee. I told you this was a recompense. I told you this would be the time. Well. He said, upon him will I visit the altars of Bethel. Now, you remember what Bethel is, right? The house of God, which means all the churches, all the religious, smite the shepherd, scatter the sheep. Smite the shepherd, scatter the sheep. Smite the shepherd, scatter the sheep. Scatter the sheep. Scatter the... Because I'm going to shake them, the Most High said. They're going to be 2, 3, 4. I will smite the winter house. The winter, I will gather crops starting in the autumn and winter seasons. And then by summertime, I want to see what you've done, and I'm calling it enough. Ooh, it kind of puts a little pressure on you, doesn't it? It's going to be one incredible year. It's going to be one incredible year. I tell you what, I am grateful. I am grateful because here at the Journey of the Remnant, We only speak the truth, and the Most High He shared with us. He shared with us long before it would happen. But He shared with us so that if you listened, you wouldn't be afraid of the shaking, because He wouldn't be shaking you. Oh, but if you are afraid of the shaking, I feel a little concerned for you because you probably didn't take it as seriously as I said. But hey, if you feel like life is getting tough, that means the branch is moving, and you feel like, whoa, what's going on here? What's going on here? Well, I tried, Most High. I tried. Look what it says. As a shepherd taketh out of the mouth of the lions. He's saying, I'm going to shake up these false churches that confuse you left and right. I'm going to shake you right out of their mouths. I'm going to give you from the time of fall to the summertime. And you're not getting on my game. You're out of here. Didn't I tell you by May? You want to be out of here by May? You want to be You want to be right with the Most High by May? You want to be out of America by May? I shared this with you. Well, Most High certainly told you so. See, the problem is people don't listen. People don't listen. And I love the metaphors and analogies that the Most High gives. So shall the children of Israel be taken out. Whoa. That dwell in Samaria in the corner of the bed and Damascus in the couch. So let's forget Samaria and Damascus for a second. Let's just look at the bed and the couch. He's calling all the sluggards. Anyone who's not producing any fruits, I'm coming to get your behind. Man, thanks, Yeshua. Thanks, Minister Yeshua. You really was like, hey, gotta work. Gotta do something. Get a little rest, but do something. Always be active, because our Father in heaven is coming to shake it up. Don't come to me when He shook you up. Now, no. Men of the Most High, we'll understand if you're shaking. We'll understand. Don't come to us. Okay, you were supposed to come before. Now, for those who are in the who need to be pulled out from the lion's mouth, that's a different story. But at some point, my question would be for you, when you come to the journey of the remnant, what took you so long? What exactly were you doing? And I'm going to even be real with you. How does it feel to be late? Now, with your answer with that, how does it feel to be late? I'm going to say, you remember how it feels to be late. Now, let's work 10 times harder, because there is no time. There's no time. There's no time. There's no time at all. And I'm going to pause the screen while I get the sibling oracles. I'll keep my voice. Please just bear with me a second, please. So thank you. I'm going to ask those tough questions. Hey, don't be upset with me. As men of the Most High, as ministers, we have all the right to put that foot, that spiritual foot in your behind and say, all right, you was comfortable. That church had you dancing and clapping and shaking and shouting. Well, here at the Journey of Remnant, we don't do that. We do works. We don't act. This is not a play, okay? We are not on a script here, all right? You're not auditioning to be a part of a play. You are running a race. You have to do something. And unfortunately, so many people, they, they're sleeping. You know why they sleep? Because these churches that you're in, they make you lazy. They don't make you do anything. They say, oh, hey, brother, this, hey, sister, this, hey, we love you over here. We're happy. As long as they get some tithing, that's all they care about. My goodness. Well, the Most High is going to shake you out of that. And some of you are going to be upset because you had a little dream or a reality, illusion that, man, I really like this place. This place is great. We don't have to do anything but just sit down and say, yes, pastor, or yes, elder. Yeah, I love this. All we have to do is come on a Saturday or a Sabbath and then go back to work and live our lives. That is not serving the Most High, you sloth. That is not serving the Most High. Just, yeah. I'm going to listen to my elder and to my pastor and then go to work for 6 days a week. That's not serving the Most High at all. The Most High is about to shake it up. Because how are you going to get into the kingdom doing nothing? What? How do you get into the kingdom doing absolutely nothing? If I'm making you feel uncomfortable, if I'm making you feel, a little nervous, a little scared, a little upset, good. Good. Don't be mad at me because Deuteronomy 30 tells us, 19, you choose. Here at the Journey of the Remnant, I told you, do something, do good works, use those talents, use those fruits. Nobody. A few people listen, praise the Most High. For those of you who are leaving these caskets you call churches, these morgues you call churches, prepare to work. It's not me saying as a minister, it's not me saying, oh, I hate you and, I don't like you, but I will sit there and ask you, well, what exactly were you doing? Like, and don't be upset when the men of the Most High say, all right, so you were in those churches? Well, now it's time to work harder like you've never worked before, because guess what? You don't know what working for the body of Christ is. You just know going to church. You see what I'm saying? So it's going to get a little bit uncomfortable for a lot of people, but it's a good uncomfortable. Why? Because I prefer to be uncomfortable now and be comfortable later for an eternity than to be comfortable temporarily and uncomfortable for an eternity, right? I would hate my eternity being uncomfortable forever. All right, we're going to go into this shortly or briefly here. Let me put you at screen now. I'm fired up. I'm trying to get to the case. Let's get there. We got to work hard. Much is asked, much is required. Can't just be sitting. We got works to do. And this was what we were called to do. We were all called to encourage each other. You see your brother or sister slacking, man, if you don't get up, and no one, I'm going to say this, no one, there's not one person. If someone doesn't want, if you know people who don't want to use their fruits and talents, no one should want you to do your talents more than you. If someone wants you to do your talents more than you, that's bad. That's bad. And vice versa. You shouldn't be wanting someone else to use their talents. They should want to use their talents for themselves, because that brings the glory to the Most High. Okay? This is Sibling Oracles, page 349. Chapter 2, and we'll start from signs of the end. But whenever the signs appear throughout the world, children born with great temples from birth, afflictions of men, famines, pestilence, wars, change of times, lamentations, many tears, alas. Meaning, finally, how many peoples, children, and the countries will feed on their, I'm not going to say because I don't want to take it off, with the piteous lamentations, they will place their flesh in cloaks and bury them in the ground, mother of peoples defiled with blood and dust. O very wretched, dread evildoers of the last generation, infantile, who do not understand that when the species of females does not give birth, the harvest of articulate men has come. Wait, what? When the species of females does not give birth, the harvest of articulate men has come. The gathering together is near, when some deceivers in place of prophets approach speaking on earth. Beliar also will come and will do many signs for men. Satan, Antichrist, you get it? Then indeed there will be confusion of holy, chosen, and faithful men. That means you don't even know which way to look at. That's why the Most High said to shake it on up now. Shake it up, shake it up, shake it up. You get it, right? He's going to shake it up. And there will be plundering of these and of the Hebrews. So the Most High going to shake it up, because you're looking at people with numbers. You're looking at this when the Bible sit there and tell you, I'm going to pick 3 from the branch, 4 from the branch, 10 from the branch. And you thought someone with 1 million followers or 100,000 followers was of the Most High? I told people, if you have a bigger number than Christ, you were doing something wrong. If Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, how are you going to have a greater number than the sick? Never mind. Shh, I'm thinking out loud. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. A terrible wrath will come upon them when a people of 10 tribes will come from the east to seek the people which the shoot of Assyria destroyed, of their fellow Hebrews. Nations will perish after these things. Everything seeming to be surrounded with Iraq and Syria. Hmm. This is the one about the children of Israel ruling. Later the faithful chosen Hebrews will rule over exceedingly mighty men, having subjected them as of old, since power will never fail. the Most High oversees all living in the sky will spread. And I don't want to get too much about the Messianic kingdom, but yep, you get it, right? Of course you do. Of course you do. Of course you do. Now, everything is surrounding Syria. Now, I'm going to actually cut it here, but I'm going to give you a sneak peek of what's next. So you may say, what's next, right? Well, brothers and sisters, I'm going to show you how Palestine and Lebanon was just the beginning and how this all ties into the destruction of Babylon. And this will be the exact reason that I have placed Donald Trump in the first portion of the video. Ooh wee. Is it going to get wild? Because, hey, winter to summer, fall to summer, fall to fall. I said it. The time has come. And FYI, right? For anyone paying attention to the things that's coming, and I'm kind of giving you, also a little front of what's coming from myself. We have Through the Gates of Hell, which will be about the Vatican. I already had the 5 portals, but we'll go over more in detail. The Knocking of the Door of Hell. The portals that is, the portal that people have been finding. There's a person who found a portal in Mexico that on the top carves Diablo, how they open portals all over the earth. But December 24th, those portals that the Pope opens, well, you're serving the wrong person on those days. There's fair game for what's coming in the future, because every action is a form of who you serve. Brothers and sisters, this was Damascus and the Trail of Tears. It's not just a trail of tears for Damascus and for Syria. Children of Israel and the rest of the world, are you ready? Are you ready for the shaking up? Are you ready to be released from the mouth of wolves, of lions, of bears, of these false shepherds? Because it's going to take a lot to shake them out. I want you to think about that. You done trusted people during the jib jab. You done trusted people during certain times, and you still ain't left them. Well, the Most High says, I've given you time. That being said, brothers and sisters, I want you to take it seriously when our Father in heaven talks about producing fruits. I know, like I said, the time gets shortened days. I understand everyone is tired, and I get it. Something is better than nothing, brothers and sisters. But just make sure that whatever you do offer, whatever you do for the Most High, it's from the heart. It's not, oh, well, I have to put out 10, 15 talents. because one talent from the heart is worth more than 15 rush talents, because he cares about how you do it, why you do it. All right. Time is short, but I pray everyone that is doing their talents, working on their talents, producing more talents, I pray the Most High shortens time for you during your time of producing talents, so that you can produce just as much as you would like in the short time that we have. Until next time, brothers and sisters, prepare yourself, because it's not only Syria that's going to be shooken, it's going to be the world. And many people's laughter will turn into mourning, and many people's faces will have a trail of tears. Shabbat shalom.